Please. Please don't have as many blowouts as last week. Welcome, everybody, back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Will James.
I'm Josiah Damas.
And we will be previewing week 2 because, week 1's done and over. And we're looking forward to the upcoming week. And we're going to try and make some predictions. I have a list of power rankings. I'm just going to go through stuff and, look at the week a little bit. So, how about we start with power rankings?
Sure.
Let's start with that. We will count down from 10. So, do you want to go first with your 10?
I did not have the time to make one, but I have a general idea of which ones I want at the top. Obviously, I'm going to go from top to bottom, mostly because at least that's what I can think of. Not in any order. So I think top 10 would consist of at least Chiefs being number 1. The rest of them I have no idea. Eagles, Ravens, Texans, Cowboys, Niners, Lions, Tampa Bay, I guess. Packers. Did I say Packers already?
No.
Okay, Packers. And Miami.
Interesting.
Yeah, probably just those 10 for right now. Like I said, it was the first week. It was hard to determine who was actually really good and who wasn't. So
that's fair. I guess I'll go through mine because I actually have mine. I had mine planned out, been written out.
I'm busy.
Starting at number 10, I had the Miami Dolphins.
Fair.
Who I don't think I would have had maybe would have had near the top 10 before week 1. Again, expecting them to look good, but they didn't look as good, but still like a solid team. Their defense was the thing that impressed me more than anything. And I think that's kind of why I put them in at 10 is, as a team that's been known to be dominant on offense. And that wasn't, I think that cost them a few points, but their defense stepping up and being good moved them in. Plus, I had a hard time putting someone else. Yeah, well, you could argue one other team, but you definitely would be able to argue one other team. But then to number 9, I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who just looked really good. And we'll see how long they stay there because,
yes.
Do I actually expect them to be that good all year? No.
I don't know.
But, if they do, they'll move up. But currently, I have them at 9 because they looked really good, even against like a not expected to be great team. But then moving on to number 8, I had the Buffalo Bills, who actually went in and, again, they played their first half was weird, but they came in, played the game they needed to play. Josh Allen looked good, and they just, done what they needed to get done.
Yeah.
Looked solid, looked like they weren't going to they maybe aren't taking as much of a step back as we thought. And I think we're just more impressive of a team than the previous 2. And then up to number 7, I had the Houston Texans because, they looked good. They were a good team. They haven't seemed to skip a beat. They're back from where they were last year, which is so fantastic. So excited for CJ Stroud and the Texans year 2. Now that they've shown that they're just gonna continue to grow, and I'm like, okay, great. But yeah, they looked really good. Mixon was good. Stroud was good. I mean, and the receiver room's great. Their defense was solid. They give me no reason to really keep them out of a top 10.
No.
Played really well. Cowboys at 6. I mean,
Fair.
you looked really good, but that's also because the Browns looked really bad. Obviously, you're going to be a good regular season team. You're always a good regular season team, which is really annoying. But just because of also the other people in front of you, could I have put you 2 spots higher? Yes, I could have. I didn't. Suck it, Cowboys. On to number 5 was the Detroit Lions. Every facet looked really good. I think, honestly,
they're well-rounded.
I think the only, again, the secondary could still be a little bit better. Hutchinson was always kind of on the rush of Matthew Stafford. But other than that, I mean, Jared Goff had a couple of missed opportunities, but other than that, they were like, their run game was good, their O-line was good.
It's first game.
We're so well-rounded, and still that game was really close. It was weird. But the Lions looked like a really good team, and they're going to be really exciting. So, and they're still only at 5.
What?
This is the controversial one. Surprise, surprise. Well, depending on who you are, maybe it's not as controversial. At 4, I have the Ravens. I dropped them down a little bit, obviously from a loss, but they lost to the Chiefs. They kept it close, and despite, again, looking kind of rough at points, you still almost were able to tie the game and potentially could have won it.
Yeah.
That's
valid, honestly. I don't have any issue with that. If it was like top 3, I'd been like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's a loss, but it's also a loss to someone that I think a lot of people are expecting to win the Super Bowl again. So
for a very good reason.
So it's whatever. I liked a lot of what we did. Defense took a step back from what we saw, but
agreed.
I think the Ravens are still a top 5 and potentially, I think by the end of the year, could be a top 3 team.
Yeah.
I think they're still one of the best in the league. On to number 3, though, I put the Eagles because
solid.
Other than they have some defensive concerns, but that offense, other than if Jalen Hurts doesn't throw 2 interceptions every game, I think they're going to be really scary.
Yep.
They have so many pieces, so many. They're a super team. I do have them behind the other super team in the San Francisco 49ers because the 49ers
are slightly better.
Their defense looked better.
Yeah.
And then their offense was still dominant. Yeah. So,
and
then there's number 1.
Gee, I wonder who it is.
The Chiefs, partially because they won the Super Bowl, partially because they came in and won against a good Ravens team, and partially because they're probably going to stay there until someone proves that they shouldn't be.
Yeah.
We'll see how long that takes. We'll see how long the Chiefs stay at number 1. Yeah. But that's my power rankings.
Well,
if you disagree, whatever. Tell me I'm wrong.
I can hear people saying no.
I'm probably going to get a couple biased, he's biased comments.
Because he's a Ravens fan.
Yeah, see, if you didn't know that, you might actually have thought that was fine. But now that you know I'm a Ravens fan, you're going to hate me for it.
Well.
But we'll get into our picks for this week as we preview week 2.
Mm-hmm. We got Buffalo visiting Miami, in Miami, obviously.
Thursday Night Football.
So, in this case, Miami during the warmer months, they tend to have an advantage. Also, Miami purposely puts the away team on the side that is in the sun.
But this is a night game.
This is also a night game. Shoot. Never mind. So this one, I guess in general, Bills kind of regressed a little bit, while the Dolphins are kind of still at the same spot they are. They didn't really change all that much. I'm still picking the Dolphins, though, mostly because I still believe that this last week was more of a, hey, wake up. Like, they haven't really woken up to do anything. Also, not saying that the Bills aren't a good team. I'm just thinking it will be a close game, and Miami might sneak out a win here and pull away with the division lead at the moment. So
Yeah, I think there's some. It's gonna be tough to make. I like Miami's 1.5 point favorites.
yes,
And understandably so, because while Miami is usually favored, like they usually do really well early in the year.
yep,
The reason why partially I think it's so close is, again, Bills looked better than they were expected to, I think.
yeah. I thought they were going to be kind of mediocre this year.
But
No,
I mean, we could. There's still room for that,
it's still week one.
One but
week. Yeah,
the one thing I look at between Miami and Buffalo is they've dominated that matchup for
a long time.
at least while McDaniels has been there.
Yeah, they've had a number on McDaniel for a while.
So, and I think that's going to be kind of tough. I think this is probably Miami's. Well,
We'll see.
it could be both teams' potential last year to take the division. I think this might be Miami's best chance to do it because I think Buffalo again has they've lost some pieces, and I think this is
the time to do it.
This is, I think, the week where they would likely be able to get a win. Again, I think Buffalo looked better last week, even with some holes. But
Yeah.
I think Miami is going to be really competitive in the division this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think they're going to sneak out a win.
Next game, we have the Saints visiting the Cowboys. No, for the Saints. Cowboys are winning this one. Cowboys have always been dominant at home. No.
Yeah.
That's all you need from me. It's just no.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see how well that the Saints O-line holds up against an actual decent pass rush.
Yeah.
Dallas's run D looked a lot better last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going Dallas just because I think the Saints.
Yeah.
I think both teams looked better than what they are, but I think the Saints by a lot more. And I think the Cowboys are it's a little bit closer to par as to what they are in the regular season.
Yes.
So Cowboys set at 6.5 point favorites. I could see that like a 7 point win for the Cowboys. I think this one might not.
It might not.
Saints are coming off of a high, and I don't know. It's probably not going to last too long, based off of what I believe. So, moving on to Tampa Bay at Detroit. Detroit's 7 point favorites.
Mm-hmm. I am going to stick with Detroit with this one. Detroit has home field advantage. Detroit overall is a better, well-rounded team than Tampa Bay. However, Tampa Bay did have a very convincing win against the Commanders this last week. It was the Commanders. Not saying the Commanders are bad. Just saying the Commanders have improved. Let's see here. I can see a scenario where Tampa Bay does win. However, that is overshadowed by all of the possible ways that the Lions can win. So I'm going to stick with the Lions in this one.
Yeah, I think I'm also going Lions. This is a game where I would not be surprised if the Buccaneers won.
Yeah.
Both teams looked really good. Lions had better competition.
Oh, definitely.
But, I mean, I think the defense for Detroit is going to look a little bit better, and is not going to allow the Buccaneers to kind of do the same exact thing. But
yeah.
I think it's going to come down to. I think it really comes down to what can Detroit do on offense, and I think that's just going to be more. This could actually be a high-scoring game.
It very well could be.
But I think Detroit pulls out a win. I think their defense does enough to hold Tampa Bay maybe under 30, while Detroit gets up to like 35 something.
Probably.
And I think they pull out a solid win.
Next, we have Colts visiting Packers. So obviously, Jordan Love, he's not playing this week at the very least. I do not have confidence in Malik Willis. If that's what is that who it is? Okay. Colts with a fully healthy roster, I think beats a slightly injured Packers roster right now.
Yeah, if you asked me like before the season, I probably would have gone the
I would have
Packers.
gone the Packers if Love was still.
Packers showed a defensive weakness. They showed that their offense can be electric, but you are losing Jordan Love. Colts performed a lot better than I was expecting them week one. So coming in week two off of kind of a high, even though you lost.
You kept it close against Houston.
Yeah,
that's
looked
good.
really good. So
that's good.
You come in and, if you can do most of what you did against Houston, against the Packers, maybe open up that run game a little bit, I think you probably have a pretty solid win. Obviously, Indianapolis is now favored at 3.5 points. And I think reasonably, I think the Colts, it's their game to lose when you're going up against Malik Willis. But again, I think Malik Willis could sneak out a win, because I don't think Malik Willis is horrible. I don't think he didn't do well in Tennessee, but maybe he fits a little bit better in Green Bay as a backup. We'll see how bad he really is. I'm gonna go Indianapolis just because it's a safer pick. I'd rather not put my faith in Malik Willis.
Yeah.
So
maybe he will do well. I don't know. Moving on though. Jets visiting the Titans. This is one of the games that we talked about earlier where I thought this is one of those Jets win this because they need a statement win early in the season to show that they're not like terrible anymore. I'm going with the Jets solely on that basis. Also, the Titans are, they're okay, I guess. They're not amazing, but they're not shiny.
I mean,
already.
I could see this being an upset. I do expect the Jets to win, and I'm going to pick the Jets to win. But it's kind of just what half are you going to see of the Titans from last week? If it's the first half Titans, I think
it might be the second half.
It could be a win. Second half was not good, and the second half was mostly just came down to Malik Willis, because I think again Tennessee's defense looked good. Will Levis, made a couple mistakes in the second half, but if you take those away, look how he played in the first half, and if he can just do that for an entire game, you could have a pretty good competitive game, and they could pull out a win. Again, I am going with the Jets though. Aaron Rodgers made some decent plays last week, showed he still has something there.
Oh, yeah.
He just
he's a little rusty. Old.
He's a little rusty, breaks off the rust a little bit. I think they have a better roster, and it's the Jets' game to lose.
It really is.
So, on to the 49ers and Vikings.
I'm going to go with the 49ers, obviously, but remember, last year, somehow, the Vikings beat the Niners. That was something that shocked a lot of the NFL. I think it was just because the Vikings just had a well-rounded game that time. And this might become one of those things where the Niners don't want to repeat that ever again. So they're going to try their hardest to not lose to the Vikings. Also, the Vikings right now, they're kind of down a few players, or specifically their quarterback. Not saying that Sam Darnold can't progress as a QB. It's just I don't trust Sam Darnold and that offense to go up against a very, very strong 49ers defense.
Yeah, it's an interesting scenario. I think obviously you mentioned last year's game, and I think a big part of that was part of San Francisco's slump.
That was true.
So I think that really aided Minnesota. But I think this year, I think Minnesota's better. But I think San Francisco is also not in a slump right now. The thing to look at with Minnesota is even if J.J. McCarthy wasn't injured, I still think Sam Darnold would be the starter at this point. Just because I would have, even with McCarthy healthy, I expected Sam Darnold to start at least the first few weeks anyways, and he, based off of last week, I don't see a reason why he wouldn't start this week, again, with McCarthy if he was healthy. So I think Darnold showed enough to warrant being having some confidence in this week. I think this is going to be kind of a more important game, though, for him going forward as a starter.
For sure.
Because, if you can perform well, again, you don't have to win, but I think what his point here is perform well and don't be the problem, and you might actually, might have a chance at earning a starting job back.
For sure.
Long term.
Long term, yeah.
But I think Minnesota could keep this close. But I do think San Francisco is just that good that they haven't given me a reason to pick against them based off of last week. So I'm going to go 49ers just because it seems like the easy pick, despite how well Minnesota did.
Yep. Seattle visiting the Patriots. Seattle, better roster, more prepared. Patriots got lucky against the Bengals. They faced the Bengals that usually has a 4-week slump every year. I don't know. Patriots are not. They probably have one of the worst rosters right now. They're not that good, so I'm not expecting it to be a very competitive game. If they do happen to win this game, I'd be very surprised. And honestly, cool, I guess. you beat Seattle, so
I wouldn't actually be as surprised because New England came out and showed a actually really good defense and a pretty strong run game, again, against a team that was against the Week 1 Bengals that always struggles early in the season, but you're going against a Seattle team who, maybe you probably don't run the ball as well, and I think you're going to have to open up the game a little bit more. But if your offense doesn't ruin the game for you, Seattle's offense was rocky at times last week, so if you can play consistent good defense and just get a couple of points through a strong run game, I think this is a winnable game for the Patriots. I'm going to go the Seahawks because I think their defense is more fit to do better against the Patriots offense than vice versa. Obviously, Seattle has a better roster. It didn't perform as good on offense as we were hoping, but not necessarily expecting, at least me personally. So I wouldn't be surprised with a New England win. Mayo looked pretty solid as a coach last week. So I think that kind of throws a wild card into it, because you have two new head coaches. So
yeah,
this is going to kind of prove who's who. Again, like you mentioned, Seattle has a better roster, but coaching goes a long way. So I think, again, I'm still going Seattle. I think it could be an interesting game, though. Moving on to what probably won't be as interesting in the Washington Commanders versus the New York Giants.
Commanders win this one. I don't need to explain it.
Yeah,
I think. Really don't.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be a little closer than the game against the Vikings, but also who knows, because defense was pretty okay for the Giants. It was like, but the offense for the Giants is so bad. But again, the defense for the Commanders was not good last week either. So maybe this will be more interesting than we think. I don't think so, but maybe it will. I'm going to go Commanders just because I have no faith in the Giants.
Mm-hmm.
They have like one bright spot on that offense maybe in Malik Neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how he does, but let's just keep this one short. Commanders next. Well, no, I guess this one's gonna be short too. Los Angeles Chargers at the Panthers. I'm going Chargers because I mean, even if you just don't look at it as Panthers are bad, Chargers are not as bad, and you actually break it down, the Panthers lost because their offense was incompetent. Couldn't do anything. Yep. And the Chargers won because of a run game and a good defense.
Mm-hmm. They showed up.
So I think you take those same principles, you're probably going to see something. You're going to see probably, again, I don't think the Chargers put out as much on the Panthers as the Saints do, but
probably not.
I think it's going to be very lopsided. I think the Chargers come in and take an easy win. So I'm going Chargers because, man, did the Panthers not give me any hope going forward for the rest of the year.
For sure. Next, we have the Browns visiting the Jaguars.
Jacksonville? I'm going Jacksonville just because this one actually is going to be interesting because this is a game where the Browns are primed for their defense to kind of rule the game.
Yes.
But Deshaun Watson needs to not completely ruin the game and actually do something on offense.
Yes, he needs. Can we remove him from the league, please?
They're trying.
They're just so bad.
They're trying. Yeah. If the Jaguars just don't fumble every other play, I think that it's up for them to win. It's, don't give Myles Garrett the ball and you'll be okay.
Exactly. But will they?
Yeah, it's literally just have some ball security. I think that defense was not as good did not perform as well last week as they did last year.
Mm-hmm.
And if that keeps up, just hold on to the ball, Jacksonville, and you'll be okay. Moving on to Baltimore versus Las Vegas.
Ravens.
I'm going Ravens. Raiders have a good defense, and
that will probably be the determiner of that game is will the Raiders actually keep up with that offense?
Yeah, it'll be really the Ravens are going to put up points. The Raiders have an opportunity to put up points. It's going to come down to really is just can either team, both teams, whatever, be consistent at all and not make mistakes, because I think the Raiders made
plenty
more and worse mistakes in their loss to the Chargers.
Yep.
Ravens, and there were some miscues, but they didn't cost the Ravens in the way the Raiders did their game. So I think especially if the Ravens take the step forward that they need after a tough loss, Raiders might just be a punching bag this week. So I'm going Ravens.
Okay.
For multiple reasons, but
gee, I wonder why. So we have Rams visiting the Cardinals. I think Rams are barely going to squeak a win out of this one. It's going to be a lot closer than people think it will be.
I don't know that
Cardinals they'll play sloppy, but they'll play close.
No, the interesting thing is Cardinals are 1.5 favorites.
Oh, the Cardinals are favorites right now?
Cardinals are favorites, which I think is interesting. I think they're taking a lot of credit away from the Rams because Puka's out.
Puka.
Cooper Kupp, again, did very well last week.
I don't know if they have anybody just stop Cooper Kupp right now. who's gonna be able to cover him all the time?
I mean, I don't know, but that's the thing with the Cardinals is you never really know, but yet they still kind of just figure out a way. I guess it's kind of just what Jonathan Gannon has done.
Yeah.
Is he's just made them. They're just scrappy, but like I don't know. I think Arizona being at home, playing the way they did against the Bills, I feel like they have a little more to prove still. Because while their game was close, people probably I think people look at the Rams game and go, "Oh yeah, the Rams look good against a Super Bowl contender." While the Cardinals, it's like they choked it away. I think especially if Marvin Harrison does even just a little bit more, I think there's a lot of room for Arizona to actually be potentially even. They could end up being the second best team in that division. I think the NFC West could be really competitive. And
Maybe. I don't know if second best, but
I mean, you against what you're looking at Rams and Seahawks, and both of them have showed some issues. And I think Cardinals, if they can compete with the Rams, they can compete with anyone in that division.
All right,
except the 49ers.
You can believe that. I can believe that.
But I'm actually going Arizona with this one, just because I think they looked good.
Excuse me. Steelers visiting Broncos. This is my upset pick. I have the Broncos winning this one.
See, I kind of like what the Broncos are doing this year, and I'm a lot higher on the Broncos than most people. I also just really hate the Steelers.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm a Bo Nix believer.
Steelers don't do well at Mile High, I've noticed.
Yeah.
They don't do as good as they should be. Also, last week they played against a Kirk Cousins that was coming off an injury, who hasn't played in a while, and a Falcons team that is just trying to find its new identity.
Mm-hmm.
Broncos are dealing with a fresh young quarterback as a literally first year. I think the Broncos could have a pretty scrappy game, but can be good enough to beat the Steelers. The issue becomes, can the Broncos O-line protect Bo Nix as well as they can, because they need to stop that D-line from the Steelers. Because how are you going to stop TJ Watt?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, and I think even with that being said, Bo Nix he can run.
He really can.
He can
He
move.
can scramble.
I think Denver absolutely has a chance to beat Pittsburgh here. I think a young defense that showed some promise, and then you got a lot of young potential. However, I'm going with the Steelers because I think their defense is just going to be too much for Denver, and it might literally be a repeat where you just see Chris Boswell win the game for them. I'm hoping not, but I think.
Yeah, Steelers aren't going to be super great. They'll be good, but they won't be great. They'll be the epitome of a 9-8 season again.
I think they'll be able to squeak out a win against Denver. Onto Kansas City and Cincinnati.
Visiting. Kansas City's winning this one. Bengals usually have a rough start to the season. Playing in KC it's tough, especially with everyone saying that the Chiefs are going to win, and with how everything seems to be a little bit leaning towards Chiefs victories right now, and how much the NFL really wants a three-peat. And besides talking about speculation and stuff, no, Kansas City is currently the best team right now. Bengals are going to be sloppy, usually are the first 4 weeks. So, that's just logic. You can't pick against the Chiefs when the team that's playing them is the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2.
I can.
They can. I'm not saying the Bengals can't win. I'm just saying that it's very hard to see them winning.
Yeah, I'm not going with the Bengals either. I'm going with the Chiefs, just because I think if they can go out and play the Ravens the way they played the Ravens, and then go on and play the Bengals the way the Bengals looked, I feel a lot better about Kansas City than I would Cincinnati. Again,
Agreed.
Cincinnati absolutely can win because all it takes is for them to actually play to who they actually are rather than whatever their slump is at the beginning of every season.
Exactly.
But I'm not banking on it yet. I still think there's still stuff that needs to be figured out, and I'm not going to bank on them having figured that out before going into Kansas City. So
Yep.
I'm going with Chiefs as well.
Then we got our Sunday night game. Bears visiting the Texans. Texans are heavily favored in this one, if I saw that correctly.
6.5 point favorites.
6.5 point. No. With how sloppy the Bears were against the Titans, I don't think they're going to beat the Texans. The Texans are by far the better team, more well-rounded. I mean, we saw how the Texans did against a Colts team that actually is possibly good this year. I don't know. I don't see the Bears winning.
See, the thing with the Bears is, like, I expected them to be inconsistent.
Yes.
I expected weeks where the offense actually, well, based off of what we saw last year, it's gonna probably be their offense looks more consistent. I think their defense. This is probably a week where their defense looks a little bit rougher. Maybe not, but I think it probably does look a little bit rougher against a good offense in Houston. But looking at looking at the offense, Chicago's going to have weeks where, despite who the opponent is, they're either going to look really good some weeks or really bad some weeks.
They have great weapons. It's just they're very inconsistent about using them.
Yeah, and whether that's coaching, whether that's,
Off days or
who your quarterback is.
Yeah.
We don't really know about Caleb yet. Because, again, I think some weeks he's going to look really good. Sometimes he's not. Is this going to be one of those weeks? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think Houston goes in and kind of has a comfortable win.
Curve stomps them a little bit.
Makes
Caleb Williams wake up to reality, probably.
Yeah, I think Houston. Again, I think it's going to be impossible picking Bears. I think this year, unless they just suck. I think it's going to be really tough picking Bears wins, just because you never know which version is going to show up, and I think there's few versions of the Bears that could show up that would beat Houston this week. So I'm going Houston as well. And then to cap it off on Monday night, we have Atlanta at Philly, and I think the key takeaway for anyone who remembers last week is that Kirk Cousins is going to take time because he was injured last year and he's on a new team, which also has a new coach. So there's a lot of change.
A whole new system, guys. It's not the same Falcons we know.
So
from the last couple of years,
I don't think it's burn Atlanta yet.
Nope.
But
I don't think it'll be Atlanta's turn to start winning after the first 3 games. If I recall, their schedule was a bit rough the first few weeks. But after that, it tends to ease up a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going Philly in this one.
I am too.
Atlanta showed a good defense. What that means against the juggernaut in Philly, who knows? Philly showed a weaker defense, but Atlanta really struggled, especially Kirk Cousins. So I think it's more going to be a bounce back week for the Philly defense than the Kirk Cousins in the Atlanta offense. Hopefully Kyle Pitts can get me some more points. And maybe not as much to Bijan.
I have Bijan. Let him have it.
No. So yeah, I think Eagles, just because I have more faith in their offense than I do Atlanta, even against Philly's defense after how they looked. So I'm going Philly, which wraps up our predictions.
Wraps it all up.
These will go back once again into our Pick'em League. I'll drop the link to that. Anyone is allowed to join and compete. As of right now, Josiah is tied for first.
Tied for first, and I know who's tied with me, so he must be very happy.
And I'm sitting there at 8-8, so I'm looking for hopefully a bounce back week.
We have very similar picks though, so we'll see.
Yeah, and I'm guessing I'm probably not gonna do great. I'll probably go 50-50 again.
It depends.
So, but yeah, there'll be a link in the description to that. So if you want to go and compete against us in these picks, you go ahead, see if you can do better than us.
Do it, you won't.
Or just go to the comments and tell us we're wrong. Be more direct. Say it with your chest.
Just don't write an essay.
Yeah, I mean, do what you want.
I mean, I love a good debate, but like an essay, dude, like come on.
Do what you want. We're not. Anyways, but that wraps up the week 2 preview. Planning to stream once again the Sunday night game. If you like the content, drop a like, comment if you hate what we say or like what we say. I like positivity is okay too. And if you like anything, if you like most of the stuff on the channel, subscribe, whatever. But yeah, that wraps up our week 2 preview. We look forward to another exciting week of football.
Oh yeah.
And we will see you guys next week, I guess.
Yes.
Bye.